Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, and today I'm going to be doing my bi-weekly reading wrap-up video. This might be kind of a long one because I have just been tearing through the books lately, and so I have quite a few books to talk about and discuss. As per usual in these videos, I am going to talk about the books that I finished in the past 2 weeks, the books that I'm currently reading right now, maybe a couple of plans for the upcoming days and weeks, and any books that I have acquired in the past 2 weeks, which I have acquired one, so I'll be talking about that as well. So yeah, I apologize for the extra noise in the background. It is very, very hot here right now this weekend. Today is probably going to be the hottest day of the year so far. So it's going to be well over 100 degrees. So my air conditioner is running. I can't really do much about that. It's very hot. I'm not going to turn it off just to record a video when it's this hot outside. So we're just gonna have to deal with the extra noise in the background. But that having been said, as I said, I have a lot of books to talk about, so I want to get started because I also have a wedding to go to later today. So I need to get this video done and dusted before I have to get ready for the wedding. So okay, so the books that I have finished in the last 2 weeks. I did finish Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, I believe. I've already returned this book to the library, so I don't have it to hand immediately. But yes, this was a fun book. It's YA, supernatural-y, kind of urban fantasy-ish story with a little bit of teenage romance in it. It's very cute in some ways. In other ways, it's somewhat creepy. And it's also often very touching and heartfelt, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's our two main characters are our main protagonist is a trans boy who is, sort of struggling to find his place in his community, and he wants to be a brujo, and that's very important to him culturally, but his community and his father have sort of prevented him from doing this, and so he sort of is going to try and do it on his own, and he accidentally summons the spirit of another boy who was recently killed, and he's trying to help this boy figure out what happened to him, and so that he can put him to rest or whatever. And he sort of starts to develop some feelings for this boy, and there's a bit of a mystery going on and things like that. And it's very fun. It's very cute. It's infused with a lot of Latin American culture, and the experience of Latin American immigrants in the United States, as well as the experience of being a teenage trans kid in the United States, and being queer. And so, there's a lot of themes around community, around finding yourself, around first love, around acceptance of yourself and acceptance by your community of who you are and being yourself, being your true self. So it's a very nice little YA novel that I enjoyed quite a bit. Then I also read Lavender House by Lev A.C. Rosen. I did a full video review of this book last week, so I am not going to talk a whole lot about this book except to say that it is another queer, this one is a queer historical murder mystery, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. You can watch my video review for my sort of full thoughts about it, but it was enjoyable. It had, again, a lot of heavier themes to it, being set in the 1950s, and all the main characters are queer, so it can get kind of heavy on the sort of the homophobic slurs and violence against them, but I enjoyed it quite a bit, and you can watch my full video review for more information if you want. And then sort of continuing the theme of murder mysteries with queer main characters, in fact. I did read The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. My hold for this came in, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a really great time with this. If you're not aware, I can't imagine anybody watching this video would not be aware of this book by now. It's extremely popular on Booktube, but if you're not aware, this is a murder mystery set in a secondary world fantasy, which is plagued by giant titans, giant monsters that attack their kingdom periodically, and they have to fight them off. There's a lot of, this is very biopunk, so in fact, I had read this for the Biopunk Square on my Our Fantasy bingo board, but it's also a murder mystery with a lot of political conspiracy and intrigue going on. It's a very, there's a lot of very complex world building going on here. There's even some like body horror elements happening. If you're not aware, the initial sort of event murder that happens is a government official is found dead with a tree growing out of his body. So there's some body horror elements here. Yeah, lots of ooey gooey, organic kind of things happening all over the place. Contagion, they call it. And the magic is all very sort of organically based. And our main characters, Din and Anna, are very interesting, a very interesting pair-up. This is often described as kind of a Sherlock and Watson kind of pairing, and to some extent they are, I would say. And Anna's very quirky, and Din is very much sort of the straight man to Anna's sort of weirdness. And so it works very well. I'm very excited to read the second book in this series. I actually went ahead and immediately put a hold on the second book, and I'll probably be getting it in the next week or so, because I'm first in the queue for it. So yeah, that's The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm having a good time with these. And then I finished yet another book this week. This is how many books I finished in the past couple weeks. It's a lot. So I went ahead and picked up, this is a reread. This is A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland. This is, I think in terms of publication order, I think this was the second book in the High Republic series, and this is the first middle grade novel in the High Republic series. So if you're new to my channel, you're unaware, Star Wars The High Republic is a publishing initiative that started about 5 years ago, 2020, and it's set in a period several hundred years before the prequel films, in a time when the Jedi are very powerful and the Republic is sort of at its height, and so there's lots of characters and storylines going on here that are all intertwined throughout these various books. And comics, and other things, and it's very fun. Got lots of great characters, lots of great storylines, and so yeah, I reread this. This is about the second one in the series. This is our introduction to Vernestra Rowe here on the cover. She's a pretty important and cool character in the overall High Republic, and it's a good time. It's a middle grade, so it's not, you know, super deep or difficult. It was a quick read. I read it to my best friend, and we did it in 2 sittings. It took about maybe 4 hours total to get through this whole thing. You know, it's fun. It's a fun little adventure story that introduces us to Vernestra and a few other really quirky and interesting kid characters in the Star Wars universe. And if there's one thing that the Star Wars universe tends to do pretty well, it's kid characters, and there's some really fun ones in here. So yeah, this was a really enjoyable sort of palate cleanser kind of read. And then finally, I would be remiss if I did not mention that I have finished reading The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot more than I can say about this book that I haven't already said in my previous videos where I talk about it, but it was an absolutely incredible read from start to finish. I will say, you know, I feel certain that this book would have moved me and affected me deeply regardless of the current political context. But in the current political context, there's a whole other layer of tragic relevance to everything that Steinbeck is saying in this book that just constantly is like a punch to the gut as I was reading this. The fact that this was written in the late 1930s and almost 100 years later, so much of what is written in here is still a problem just kind of makes me depressed. Which is not to say this is not an incredible read. It absolutely is. I could probably quote this book at you all day if I had the chance. I don't really have time, but I do have a couple more quotes from the back of the book that just really struck me, right? Like, now farming became industry, and the owners followed Rome, although they did not know it. They imported slaves, although they did not call them slaves. Chinese, Japanese, Mexicans, Filipinos. They live on rice and beans, the businessmen said. They don't need much. They wouldn't know what to do with good wages. Why, look how they live. Why, look what they eat. And if they get funny, deport them. So yeah, that's The Grapes of Wrath. Late 1930s. And here we still are today, right? Here we still are today. John Steinbeck is a new favorite author of mine. This was couldn't have asked for a better read, especially in these times. It's simultaneously depressing to see that these are still problems in society, the way that society fails the poor, the way that society fails the marginalized. But also, it is kind of heartening to know that people have been recognizing these problems for a long time, right? Like, there have always been people who know that these are problems and have been talking about them and writing about them and fighting against them. That part of it is at least a little bit heartening. So, yeah, The Grapes of Wrath. Quite a book. Had a good time. Super glad that I read it. Very grateful to all the folks who've organized this Summer of Steinbeck discussions that we've been having on Voxer, which has been really nice too. So yeah, really enjoying this. So that's all the books that I have finished in the last 2 weeks. I've been doing basically nothing but reading in my spare time the past few weeks. I've just been wanting to read constantly, wanting to read all the things, powering through. And so yeah, I'm already, I've already finished 6, 7 books this month, and last month I only finished 4 all month, and I'm probably going to be finishing at least 2 or 3 more before the end of this month. So I might hit 10 by the end of the month. We'll see. I don't know. But I am currently reading 2 books, purely coincidentally. With The Grapes of Wrath being a read that I just finished, because I've had this on hold for several months from my library. My hold for The Antidote by Karen Russell just came in, and so I've been reading this basically as a follow-up to The Grapes of Wrath. Why it's kind of funny that this came up is because The Antidote is a new novel, but it is set also during the Dust Bowl in the Great Depression in the mid-1930s. This is set in a fictional town in Nebraska, actually, in 1935, which is kind of why I felt obligated to read it, because I am a Nebraskan. I'm a third or fourth generation Nebraskan at this point, and my maternal grandparents were born in rural Nebraska during the Dust Bowl, and I grew up hearing stories about it. So I feel sort of culturally obligated to read any novel that is set in Nebraska, especially during that time period. And that's what this is. So this is kind of a strange novel. You would maybe classify it as magical realism. One of our main characters is a self-proclaimed prairie witch, or she's also called a vault sometimes, and she also calls herself the Antidote. That's where the title comes from. And she basically, she can hold or take memories from people. So people can tell her their memories, and then she will keep them safe inside of her. And they will forget what they gave her until they can come and withdraw their memories at any time, in theory. And she wakes up on a day in 1935 during what's known as the Black Sunday dust storm in 1935 in April, and she discovers that the memories that she had been containing in her body are gone. They're just gone. So she has a conundrum to deal with. And so a lot of this book is about memory. A lot of this book is about the willful forgetting of things, and how that can, you know, is that helpful or is it harmful? It's about not just personal memories and personal trauma, but also about, you know, collective memory and collective trauma, and the way that the United States has sort of collectively forgotten a lot of things in its history and erased a lot of memories from its history. I'm a little bit past the halfway point, and, you know, I'm not entirely sure where it's going or like what the end point of this is going to be, but it is pretty good. I am along for the ride on this one. This is kind of a rare lit fic pick for me, but I am having a good time with it. And I will say, considering that Karen Russell is not from here, she has done her research, and she pretty well has the geography down. There's a little bit of nitpickiness that I found in it, but for the most part, it's pretty accurate geographically. The town itself that this is set in is fictional, but obviously it's set in a real place in a real time. And yeah, I will say, as with pretty much everything I read, if you're gonna pick this up, check the content warnings, check the trigger warnings. There's definitely a lot of heavy stuff in here about trauma. There's some sexual assault, not super graphic, but it's there. And some racism, you know, some period appropriate racism is what I would probably call it. Sexism, things like that. So, yeah, I would check the content warnings before reading this book. But so far, this has been a really interesting read, and I'm interested to see where it goes. So yeah, I'm having a good time with this. Oh wow, the air conditioner actually turned off for a hot moment. That's crazy. So now I guess we're going to be a little bit quieter. Woo. But yeah, the other book that I'm currently reading is Guards by Terry Pratchett. Finally picked this up. This is another reread for me. This isn't the next in my Discworld reading project. And, you know, I really like Guards. It's the first of the City Watch sub-series, which stars Captain Vimes of the City Watch, who's one of the best characters in all of Discworld, arguably. And it's very fun. This one has also been strangely smacking me upside the head with its relevance. I already have a couple of places marked where I was like, what in the gosh dang, like, Terry Pratchett, why are you the way you are? Right? It was amazing, this mystic business. You tell them a lie, and then, when you don't need it anymore, you tell them another lie, and tell them they're progressing along the road to wisdom. Then, instead of laughing, they follow you even more, hoping that at the heart of all the lies, they'll find the truth. And bit by bit, they accept the unacceptable. Amazing. Truly, truly amazing. Another great line in here. Say what you liked about the people of Ankh-Morpork. They had always been staunchly independent, yielding to no man their right to rob, defraud, embezzle, and murder on an equal basis. This seemed absolutely right to Vimes's way of thinking. There was no difference at all between the richest man and the poorest beggar, apart from the fact that the former had lots of money, food, power, fine clothes, and good health, but at least he wasn't any better. Just richer, fatter, more powerful, better dressed, and healthier. It had been like that for hundreds of years. You know, just the normal stuff that society is actually built on. So yeah, that's Guards. It's fun. I'm having a good time. I'm again about halfway through it. Again, this is a reread for me, so you know, exciting. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. I did acquire a new book that I had pre-ordered. This is a nonfiction book that is very much up my alley. And if you're not aware, if you're sort of new to my channel, you may not know that I actually have a degree in media studies, cinema and media studies. I have my master's degree, and so I do have a lot of film theory and reading under my belt. A lot of my books are film and media studies related, and so every once in a while I do like to still dip my toes in that area because I find it interesting. And so this is a new release. It's called Sick and Dirty, Hollywood's Gay Golden Age and the Making of Modern Queerness. It's by Michael Koreski. Michael Koreski is the current director of the Museum of the Moving Image in New York City. He's also he teaches at NYU occasionally. He works for the Criterion Collection as a curator of those titles. So he's, you know, a pretty big name. He's heavily involved in lots of things, especially in the New York area, with film preservation and film history. And yeah, this is just sort of a new sort of, my understanding is that it's a sort of reassessment of a lot of classic Hollywood films for their queer content. I was almost felt obligated to pick this up just because the cover is a shot from the Children's Hour, from, oh gosh, early 60s, I think. Anyway, yeah, so from the 60s. As you can see, Audrey Hepburn, Shirley MacLaine. The Children's Hour was a groundbreaking play by Lillian Hellman, which was about two teachers at a girls' boarding school who are accused of lesbianism. And, you know, I really like this particular movie adaptation of it. I think it's quite good and interesting. It's definitely very dated in its portrayal of queerness and gay people, but it's a very interesting sort of historical artifact in a lot of ways. And yeah, so I think this book is going to be really good. Obviously, he's going to probably be talking a lot about the production code, the Hays Code, which was the form of film censorship in the United States before we introduced the current rating system, which very strictly it restricted the kinds of content that you could put in films in America for several decades, including, of course, depictions of homosexuality, right? One of the big no-nos in this code that was originally written by a Catholic priest was that you could not depict homosexuality, and any kind of quote-unquote deviant sexuality had to be punished if you were going to, you know, show it in a film. And so there were lots of different ways that filmmakers worked around this, found creative ways to sneak in things. So yeah, this is kind of a reassessment of a lot of Golden Age films from that period, because of course there have always been a lot of queer people involved in the filmmaking industry, and they have found ways to tell their stories and explicate their understanding of the world through film, even under these dire circumstances of censorship. So this, I think, should be an interesting read. Yeah. I always think it's interesting whenever I see someone make a video where they talk about, oh, you know, I know it's okay to portray bad things, but of course, if you're going to portray bad things, you need to make sure that everybody knows that it's bad, right? You need to put a disclaimer on it that says, oh, yes, I know that this thing is bad. I know that violence against women is bad. You know, or only your villains can do the bad things. Because that's exactly what the Hays Code did. Literally, like, you could only portray bad things if the people who did the bad things got punished at the end of the movie. Censorship is an insidious. It's a very insidious sneaky little bastard. And I really think people need to be more careful when talking about things like that, because as someone who's studied film censorship, I spent a lot of my academic career studying the history of film censorship in America. We don't want to go down that road. Trust me, we don't want to go down that road. That's my PSA for the day, by the way. So anyway, that's Sick and Dirty by Michael Koreski. I don't know if I probably won't get to this very soon, but I'm going to try to get to it soon-ish. So we'll see. We'll see when I can get to it, but I am looking forward to reading this. So yeah, that's what I've got. I do have a few plans for sort of the upcoming weeks. It's sort of continuing on the Grapes of Wrath, Great Depression, Dust Bowl kind of thing. I do have The Worst Hard Time by Timothy Egan. This is a nonfiction sort of pop history narrative of the Dust Bowl in the United States. I do own this. It did win the National Book Award, so I'm sure it's pretty good. My mom and my sister both read it like last year and really liked it, so I might read this just as a sort of companion piece to The Grapes of Wrath and The Antidote, because I'm on a kick, I guess. I want to read more about the Dust Bowl, so there we go. I have this, so I might as well give it a read. I've been planning to read it for a while. Might as well. And then, of course, in July, we'll be continuing the Summer of Steinbeck with East of Eden. So I'm very much looking forward to East of Eden, especially after having read The Grapes of Wrath. I know there's some people who say that East of Eden is even better than The Grapes of Wrath. So we'll see if I think that after I've read East of Eden, which I'm very much looking forward to. I do also I really still need to read Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is the final book in the Tawny Man trilogy, and yeah, I really, really want to read this. It just sort of keeps getting put off. So I should really try for this, like in July. But the thing with July is that it's Jane Austen July. And I'm going to be participating in Jane Austen July this year because it seems really fun and I want to do that. And it's the 250th anniversary of Jane Austen's birth this year, which makes it even more sort of fun and exciting. And so I'm going to be trying to do as much Jane Austen reading as I can in the month of July. So I'm not entirely sure if I will get to this in July, because between East of Eden and reading a bunch of Jane Austen-y stuff in July, my plate is already pretty full. But I will be making a video next. My next week's video will probably be like a TBR, my plans for Jane Austen July. So I will go into more detail about that next time. So yeah, that's a lot of books that I have been reading and planning to read very shortly. What books are you reading lately? Have you read any of these books? Do you like them? What's up in your reading world? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe if you want to hear more about the books that I am reading. And yeah, that's all I got. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.